Welcome to First Unitarian Church of Honolulu. This is our fun time we like to have together. This is our Pau Hana. It's a little bit shorter this week, but we have a wonderful guest, and I don't want to waste too much time talking about Pau Hana. Instead, I want to get right to our wonderful guest, Cam Miyamoto, who is joining us from Manoa, probably from his home, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'm secretly in my house.
I
Yeah.
understand.
I'm in Kaimuki.
Cameron is a longtime friend of mine here at in Honolulu. He's a friend of the church. And Cameron, what we like to do on Pau Hana night is just get to know some of the people that we're doing work with together a little bit better. I'm going to mute some folks because it looks like there's some background noise. So tell us, what exactly do you do and where do you do it?
Okay. And hi, nice to meet everyone or get to see you again. My name is Cameron Miyamoto. I'm the director of the LGBTQ Center at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm really lucky to get to have the job that I do. Able to work for students at UH. And I'm excited to be able to work for equity and inclusion on a daily basis and to help ensure that all students have equal access to the ability to achieve their dreams, regardless of their gender, regardless of their sexual orientation. I am so thrilled with the way I've seen changes happen in Hawaii during my lifetime here in my job. I started in 2002.
Oh, wow. You've seen some stuff.
Yeah, I've been in this position for a while. I made it up as I went along. Yeah, I know what I'm doing. So I'm the inaugural director. So I literally made it up. And when I first started, we were dealing with isolation. We were dealing with mostly gay, lesbian, a few transgender, some bisexual individuals who did not feel comfortable to be out on campus. And that was very much the focus of things back then. And this was 2002, and that's where we were in Hawaii. And I am just so excited we have a fuller breadth of the diversity of gender and sexual orientation in Hawaii now, where we have our young people coming to us from various high schools at new student orientation, saying, where is the Gender and Sexualities Club? I want to get connected. I was part of one in my high school. Where do I get support? How can I make sure I can change my name on my forms? So I do on a daily basis advocacy, support and resources. I talk with students one-on-one, these days through Zoom. I do drop-in groups for students, these days through Zoom. Lots of educational events and programming and trainings for the university, for faculty and staff on equity and inclusion issues around sexual orientation, largely around best practices and interpretation of policy. So that's the fancy words of what I do.
Good.
So I don't know, how's that, Reverend TJ?
You did a great job. Now let's get real.
Okay, cool.
No.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Go for it.
One of the things I'm curious about, one of the things we work on at our church, and it's been a little harder now with Zoom, and it's kind of come up a little bit, is welcome. And so one of the things I'm thinking about with you, who has sort of a regimented time when new people are coming, I imagine it's sort of like a open house and then other times when you get to meet folks. How are you doing welcome well in a Zoom space?
Does
that make sense?
Yeah, okay. I guess I'll talk about it in terms of our coffee hours, what we call it. It's our student drop-in group.
Okay.
And we do that every Wednesday. It's from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, student hangout place. that my office facilitates. And it's open for any student of the UH system, regardless of how they identify. And we wanted to be an inclusive and affirming place for anyone interested in LGBTQ plus issues. So I do a welcome. I do something where a poll everywhere is the format that I use to start off. And the students love to do stuff on their cell phones. So I learned about this through like Department of Health or Department of Education things where I go through trainings and stuff and they say, how many of you are working with this population? What are this? So instead I ask questions. How do you identify and how do you describe yourself? Who's in the room today? Or how do you describe your sexuality? Because this is stuff around for the students. So they could write anything like, oh, I'm gay, or I am fabulous, or I am complicated.
Is fabulous a sexuality now?
It is now for our group, because I'm actually the plant who entered fabulous just because I was curious how they would take it. Yeah. So the students loved it because they said, I just put in the prompt, describe your sexuality as an icebreaker.
Yeah.
So that it could be more than just gay or straight or pansexual or omni. And so when I put fabulous, people just started getting really creative and challenging each other to have fun with it. And it became a dialogue that opened things up and people are laughing. And it became a place where we could talk about our identities, which is kind of an awkward and private thing, where we could honor it in the room, but without actually talking about it. And then we went on to talk about stuff. How is your week going? Some of the prompts I went from there is, how would you describe your first week of class? Mm-hmm. And then I made it a multiple choice poll thing. And then I asked, it was like a marathon in slippers, mm-hmm. or it was like a spiritual walk through the park, or it was a relaxing day on the beach. It was metaphysical hell. And then I just asked them to share why. Just left random stuff or other. So I just would come up with random prompts just to start conversation. So that's kind of the way I trick the students into getting to know each other. Mm-hmm. And open it up for conversation, because my goal is we're forming a family of support where we're going to support each other through hard times, through stress, through I don't think I can make it through the rest of this week because I'm hitting a wall on this class. So help.
So one of the things you just brought up is one of the things I think about a lot, which is the metaphor of family. And with your population, with folks that you're talking to, some probably don't have, their families of origin may not be the kind of supporting structure that many people think of. The more I'm in ministry and the more I meet people, the more I realize very few people have the exact kind of family support structure they would really like. And so how do you remake family, or can you say something about your concept of family for the folks that you're really ministering to, that you're caring for?
Sure. I acknowledge that a lot of the students I'm working with are in difficult living situations in terms of their family of origin. Some of the students during COVID, their living situation has changed because they are living in place, a lot of them or many of them, too many of them, with family members who aren't supportive of them because they're LGBTQ plus.
Yeah.
A lot of students having to readjust and recalibrate, allowing themselves to be who they are on a daily basis now that they're living with a family structure instead of living in a dorm or in an apartment by themselves. So it's caused a lot of stress and some discomfort that we've had to work through together. So with that in mind, I've been very conscious in talking about we are each other's family. And I want you all to think about each other as our extended family. We are Pau Hana. We are there for each other because we face tough times together. And we understand the kinds of struggles that we go through. And we are there to live through our experience, how we can help each other. Because so much of the stuff that each of us face, we understand because we've gone through it ourselves. And we want to be compassionate. We want to be able to assist through our lived experience of how to get through that. So I do it kind of as like an older sibling,
Okay.
helping the younger siblings as the appropriate way to get through these tough times. It's like, hey, when I was a first year student, I wish I knew this. So as a family conversation, we'll have a conversation of like, hey, older siblings, what do you wish you knew when you started school?
Mm-hmm.
What are the tricks you know now that you wish someone told you?
Mm-hmm.
And those are the kinds of conversations we have. Like, what did you have to figure, or what do you wish you didn't have to figure out on your own that you can share with your younger siblings today?
Yeah. And yeah, that I wonder about this idea of, in a sense, what you're saying is that you're talking about normal stuff that everyone's going through. It's just with people who, creating this community that has a shared, I don't know, a shared identity or a shared sensitivity or this commonality. So yeah, but it's just getting normal college questions answered, right?
Yeah. Yeah, people getting normal college questions answered, dealing with typical stress. They're like, oh, I have a boring professor who I just am struggling to stay listening to. And then every so often, this professor slips and won't honor my pronouns, and that just irritates me. And then the students go, you too? I am just sick and tired of being misgendered. And I didn't realize how much that's getting under my skin.
Yeah.
And then that's the part when the sparks and energy and support and love grows. In the ability to be able to nurture each other and affirm that I hear you, I see you, I feel what you're going through, and we can do this together. And then that's when I try to step in if I have an ability to say, hey, I noticed that you folks are sharing some experiences in common. Maybe these are some strategies that you can do to implement some change. And me as an administrator of the university, this is what I could do as an advocate to help make that happen.
And
that's kind of when we get the ball rolling.
Yeah, speaking of the ball rolling, I know that you've had some interesting conversations with some of the other people. I don't think I really got a chance to ask you, what is exactly your title again?
Queen extraordinary, no, just kidding. I'm director. I'm the director of the LGBTQ Center.
Okay. And as director of the LGBTQ Center, director level administration at the university level is a not like high seniority, but it's got some seniority. And when you talk about being an advocate, can you tell us maybe a little bit about maybe a recent experience of having to go to bat for your family, for your folks with the real powers that be, with the trustees or with the chancellor?
Okay.
Granted, you're being recorded, so you speak freely.
now you remind me.
Yeah.
After I already spilled the beans.
Yeah.
Where will this be played, and who's a member of your congregation? Just kidding.
Right. That's a good question.
Yeah, too late. Just kidding. Everything I say is with integrity. Through the course of my working at the university, I've had the opportunity to sit on different committees. Starting out with diversity and equity stuff and inclusion, sitting in different places where direct reports to the vice chancellor, and those kinds of meetings where we talk about the student affairs umbrella and all things that impact student life and everything outside of the academic classroom we deal with on a monthly basis. But then one of the areas that I've been appointed to most recently is in the Campus Climate Committee for our university president, where he selected individuals who he wants to deal with hot button issues that impact the well-being, I believe the heartstrings of our campus, where we have the courage to face issues that some people might not deal with civilly, where we try to become the moral conscience for our university to make sure that fairness compassion is used in all dialogue on campus. So we respond if hateful speech is taking place. We respond if someone in our community is threatened. And those are the places where I am often representing the voice, not only of my family, the LGBTQ students who might not necessarily be thought of right away, and having an immediate impact of how they might react to some of these situations. But oftentimes, as a student affairs professional who sits on that board, reminding folks that students are our primary purpose for being at the university. Because a lot of the other people who sit on that committee are high-level administrators, and I'm the low-level administrator on that committee. It's kind of like, how did that kid get on this board? It's like, why does the president like him? So it's like, okay, we got the gay person on this committee. What's going on here, and why is this important? So it's interesting to be able to contribute often to that, especially because one of the things that I'll say is like our general counsel and I, we often have opposing views or opposing analyses of the facts. But the thing that we really have a lot of respect for is we agree upon the facts. So, and I think
that must be nice in this culture. Yeah.
Yes, and I think that's the thing where we have the agreement that this is what's going on.
Okay.
And this is what's happening that's impacting our campus. So having like the two of us agreeing that this is what's going on and this is what we have to address, even though we have different perspectives, because hers is more of a legal perspective and mine's more of a student advocate perspective. We're able to work together in that kind of way. So I feel that my responsibility in being an advocate for my family is to speak from the point of view of students.
Okay.
Keeping in mind the legal perspective.
Sure.
It's like, yeah, I know, General Counsel, you're going to remind me of everyone's legal rights, but let me just tell you how this impacts the heart of our students and what this message will feel like to a student who's struggling right now. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my voice.
Okay. It raises kind of that question also. I mean, I don't want you to get into, to too many details, but like, do you think that your population still, I mean, there's a feeling, I think, as someone who's just been in the most liberal faith for as long as he has been, and before that lived in Manhattan, and has lived in sort of the gay meccas of their circle. I'm a little out of touch. I mean, I'll just be honest, as far as like what people, even in a place ostensibly as liberal as UH, are maybe going through. I mean, what kind of vulnerabilities and in your population are still happening on campus? I mean, is it uncomfortable feelings? Is it true hateful or threatening behavior? I mean, what today in 2020, what's kind of the level of, if you will, threat or danger for the population you serve right now at UH?
The day-to-day stuff in terms of complaints I hear about things happening on campus and in the classroom, in the virtual classroom, the biggest complaint is I have a professor who won't respect my pronouns or won't use my preferred name. They demand I demonstrate I have a legal name change. Stuff like that, needing to go by the law in order to respect me. They won't necessarily respect me for me. I don't have the wherewithal, the economic resources, the legal support to do that legal name change just yet. So it's difficult and I'm hurting. So the misgendering and the lack of respect, understanding students who feel misunderstood or intentionally disrespected is the kind of stuff that I hear about on campus. And that's where students will talk about supporting each other and where I often go to bat for them and connect and building dialogue to make sure that productive measures are put in place. The bigger thing outside of campus, though, is so much having to do with family.
Still,
still too many of our families locally are not accepting their gay children. They're not accepting their trans children. They're LGBT young people in our communities. are not feeling accepted enough. Where the closet is too real here. I have student staff who are in the closet. So who work for the LGBTQ Center, and historically I've worked to code them. We're officially working for a different office, but working for me. So stuff like that, I have to be creative.
So I just want to tell everyone, I probably won't have this video online only because the idea even that someone might be able to piece together who's working for you, something like that. We'll probably just not post this, just so everyone knows.
And that's historically over the past 20 years, not right now.
Okay, all right, fair enough, gotcha. So, but that raises a question that's a major issue in Hawaii right now is young people on the upper end of the age that the foster system, for instance, or other community support organizations are available. And then when that support kind of ends, are you seeing kind of populations that are either in foster care or coming out of foster care, or maybe don't have those resources available to them anymore because of their age, yet are still feeling ostracized by their folks? Is that something you're seeing or not really?
Not in my work at UH so much as in the larger community, and people and friends who I have who are therapeutic foster parents, and people I know who have aged out of the foster system in Hawaii. But I'm not familiar with current support for foster youth who are,
Okay. So I've attended some events at the at the university. I think one of my favorites is Coming Out Day, and the festive nature of it and the fun that we all have. We're one of a few churches. Last year, actually, for those who don't know, all the churches who attended all happened to be friends, and we all were under the same tent, literally. And when someone would come up, we would say, well, it sounds like you want more like this church. And then Brandon would be like, no, I think you more want the Unitarians. So we like know each other churches well enough that we were making recommendations to students. So we're having a wonderful time there. Can you tell us something about that part of the celebration part of your job? We've talked a lot about the care and the family, but there is a fabulousness and a celebration and a kind of, I don't know, pageantry to some of the stuff you get to do. Can you tell us some about that, and if you enjoy that, or if it's not something you like as much? Or, I know we're in transgender.
I love it. I love it. And that's one of the reasons why I'm really grateful that I get to do what I get to do. I actually don't tell the students that we're doing a support group. I use the language of family, but I don't say, hey, this is a supportive place. We're trying to build networks of support because we face some tough stuff that goes down. Yeah. Instead, the language is like, hey, we're getting together again this week for a party. What's going down? So the way we talk about it is very different than my bride up.
Sounds a little like something I do every week. Yeah. We're gonna be here, whatever's happening. We're just talking about love and justice and peace. But bring your sad and your weary and your painful heart, and we're gonna help that too. Yeah.
Yeah. And social media has been a big thing right now, where I've been challenging my staff. I'm giggling. We had our staff meeting today, and they said, can we just do a staff takeover and we'll just post stuff like crazy? And I said, yeah, just run it by me, put it in a Google Drive, I'll approve it, and then you could run with it. And then they said, can we call it a staff infection? And I said, that's cute. Yes, you can. So that's kind of the, this is going to be an LGBTQ staff infection that's going to go out on Instagram. I started a TikTok for my office. So we're going to have TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and all this stuff is going to be flying out there, where they're putting things where Our Rainbow Alliance is proud of our new Pride Boy, who is our first currently only gay elected legislator, who won in Waikiki, who happened to have beaten a UH Proud Boy, who was running against him in Waikiki. So they're running with it and celebrating our Pride Boy, who's a legislator. And that's going to be their next social media post for the week, talking about landmarks that have happened for LGBTQ politicians this year, especially LGBTQ politicians of color, and African-American communities and transgender. So there's doing all these social media posts like, hey, did you know we have the first trans senator, stuff like that going out on Instagram. So these kinds of celebrations of visibility, support, and community. And that's the kind of stuff that we do when we were having face-to-face events such as Coming Out Day, so that we can affirm and celebrate and know that being LGBTQ is an exciting thing and something we can celebrate. Something where we can get more connections, something where we are more than the stereotype we were raised to think we were.
Yeah.
It's like when we go out into the world and we walk into the campus center and see the array of things that we can join, it's like, wow, I could join the flag football team, or I could join the Unitarian Church. I could join the chorus. I could become part of a politicians group. I could become the Civil Liberties Union. And there's so many options that go beyond, I have to be an interior decorator or florist. I mean, there's so much more that our students can do and do. Yeah. And I think that's an exciting way to celebrate the diversity of our community and the growth and ongoing achievements that our students are making.
Yeah.
And that's the fun part of it.
Yeah, it is remarkable. But you bring up, the celebrations and landmarks and things like that. I know this weekend is the Transgender Day of Remembrance. And it's a solemn occasion. I know many people I'm looking at on here have attended the live ones I've had for the last 3 years. And we'll be together again on Saturday. Can you say something about that event for you? I know you've traditionally hosted it at the campus, and whether anything else is going on this week for your folks.
Sure. So on the 20th, there's going to be the Online Vigil, where the Pau Hana project is going to be honoring transgender people who we have lost to gender violence in the past year. We will name the names and honor, lift up, empower the memory of these individuals. The night before, on Thursday, I'm going to be hosting a talk on the meaning of Mahu with Kumuhina Le Moana Wang Kalu. And we're going to be talking about what does it mean to be Mahu currently in Hawaii. We're going to be talking about the historical context, and we're going to be talking about the current context, and how that's distinct from the LGBTQ movement in America. So we'll be talking about comparing Hawaiian context to American context and how she navigates successfully between all sorts of worlds and being a strong leader who is Kanaka Maoli and Mahu. And one of the traditional roles for Mahu is being a healer, a warrior, someone who embodies male and female in one body. So we're going to be speaking power to truth in her role as a healer in various different ways. Some of them as a protector of Mauna Kea. Some of them as a protector of the iwi on the Native Hawaiian Burial Council, and making sure that burial sites of the ancestors are cared for. As a healer, working in the OCCC to teach Native Hawaiian culture to inmates and to address the criminal justice system. So we'll be talking about her role as a healer and as a warrior in these areas, and how being both Kanaka Maoli or Native Hawaiian and Mahu informs her commitment to contributing to her community.
Yeah.
So I invite everyone to come. It's promising to be a great evening. I thought it was going to be a small event, but it's growing. I'm getting inquiries from Aotearoa and Cuba of how to join. So I'm like, it's the same Zoom link. But thank you for coming. But I'm getting a little anxious. I have to like write something better than my ad lib that I was going to do.
Can you put a link or something in the chat, do you think? Or do you want to send it to me and I'll send it out tomorrow with our bulletin?
Sure, I can send you the flyer.
Yeah, do that.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll get it out.
It's going to be Thursday night from 7 to 9 p.m. on Zoom.
All right, great. And then I'll also send out information for the Transgender Day of Remembrance Vigil that's on Friday. So
yeah, I believe you're going to be having a part in it.
Yeah, I am doing the closing.
You're a bit of a tradition.
It's becoming one. I think the third time it's a tradition. So
yeah, it's a tradition now.
Yeah.
Does that mean we don't have to quote you now that it's your third?
I don't know if that's what it means, but
okay.
It's going to be a fun. I mean, it's for those who haven't attended the Transgender Day of Remembrance Vigil is it's solemn and it is sad because all the names of those who have died in the last year to violence in the transgender community, their names are read worldwide. But Hawaii is a little different that after the reading of those names, we celebrate those who passed on in the transgender community over the past calendar year, no matter how they passed on. It was more of a memorial for our ancestors who went before so many today. And it's a really uplifting and beautiful experience. So it's one I encourage folks to attend if they can. So.
Yeah, I love how our Mahu and transgender family in Hawaii has transformed it into a healing night to talk about their sister brothers that they remember fondly. Mm-hmm. Share stories, laugh, and talk about memories, about people they love and people who have made a difference in their lives.
Yeah, it's I know we're coming up on time, but one of the things that happens is almost a sense of in the Hawaiian culture of genealogy, of family lineage. And many of these families, as you just to bring it full circle, you started talking about family, is very much what the community talks about with those from the transgender community on Oahu and throughout the islands experience, which is a mother figure, a father figure who brought a family together. And they have different lines of lineage that went out and started their own families, and they trace the genealogy every year of the people who've passed on of those families. So
we have very intricate genealogies.
Yeah.
And I am of the kupuna status already.
You don't look a day over cakey. I don't
60.
know. Well, Cameron and everyone, thank you so much for being here today. I know it's been a pleasure, and I hope everything goes well for you this week. So,
Thank you so much, Reverend TJ. Thank you, everyone.